become, be a little bit better at is kind of tooting our own horn when we're saving lives. Because I do think, I feel we save more lives than I'll get in a lot of trouble for saying this than most doctors on a regular basis. People come in here to our shop daily that are relieving themselves of not just a few prescription medications, but some really serious prescription medications.
Well, clearly, opiate use has gone down in places where they've legalized for adult use. And there's no question now. I mean, I think the research really supports the fact that cannabis is more of an exit drug than an entry drug or a gateway drug, as it's been known. But going back to the media, I think that it's really all about ending the stigma, because despite all of the success around cannabis, it's still sort of a closeted issue, and it still seems like such an anomaly to mainstream media to cover. Or so when there is a story that is negative, of course they do go after that. But I think that ending the stigma is going to change so much, and it's just a matter of education all around. Education, education, education.
I like to call it weeducation.
Weeducation?
One a day, every day.
That's good. I haven't heard that one before.
It comes from we educate. That's actually I actually used to do a podcast many moons ago. That was our podcast. But what are some other challenges? Getting more people their cards, getting the cards to be for more appropriate conditions that aren't covered already. I think, they did a nice thing this year by expanding it to a 2-year card, and that's a nice step, but I really believe that if you have Alzheimer's or AIDS or any condition, Parkinson's, MS, that is terminal, it's never going to leave your body. Why in the world should we make you pay for a new card every 2 years now?
Or worse, lock you up.
Right. Well, exactly. But I think it's really cruel. It's hard enough for a 22-year-old to figure out how to enter and punch into things to get their card, much less an aged person with Alzheimer's. To me, it's just wrong.
I know, that's crazy. And not only that, but people living off of $700 a month. How are they going to afford $300 for getting a medical card, not to mention having to buy medicine that is not covered by Medicare?
So, again, If they let me run the program, you and I would pay $25 for our card. And if you're low income, then it's $1. The state's made enough money off of the cards. We need to improve access to the patient.
Right. Well, and there are people who buy cannabis to treat conditions that they've been unable to treat or fix with conventional pharmaceuticals, who have foregone their insurance so that they can afford to buy cannabis because the insurance doesn't cover it. And that poses another health risk altogether. Being without insurance, I tell you what, it's scary. But for some of the people with conditions that cannabis is really the only medicine that's working, why pay the insurance in their mind,
It is costly. The whole program could be a lot better. There was one other issue I was going to mention that's come up, and you mentioned the Jones case. And the Jones case was great for many things, except there is one caveat to that came out, and you might not be aware of, is you're causing the state health department to ask the producers of edibles and concentrates to allocate the amount of flour that was used to produce that concentrate in the product, not the amount of concentrate in the product. So now a gram of wax will actually count for 4 grams off of your weight. What's bad about that is a friend of mine who did beat his cancer using RSO would not have been able to buy the amount of RSO he needed to beat his cancer.
You're the first person I've heard talk about that. And that's a problem.
I've said it to the state, to a few of their employees, and they get upset, but I said, I know it's not your law. The state is going to kill people because if you don't allow an RSO patient to buy the necessary gram a day, which is, 14 grams over 14 days, if they're being, thought on, they should be allowed to buy 70 grams, but they're only allowed to, I think, buy five or eight, based on the new weightings. That's not enough.
That is definitely a problem. Yeah, I wasn't fully aware of this, and it's something I'm going to look into. Yeah, that needs to change.
Two other problems from that. Number one is the state has only told some of the dispensaries and some of the producers they must follow this rule. So truthfully, we have some product on our shelf that is older from some of these older producers that aren't doing it yet and haven't followed the rule yet because they haven't been inspected yet this year. And so it's going to be this chain reaction. It'll be finished off in the next month or two, but it is real. There was one other part. Oh, and now what that whole story has caused is now Maricopa County's the newest producer of wax. The county deputies are making wax. And the only reason they're doing that is so they can learn how much flour it takes to make a gram of wax. That's what your tax dollars are being used on. And actually, it's illegal for them to be doing it. Unless they're card holders, and I wasn't aware of any active PD that was allowed to be a card holder. So I'm not sure how that's all working.
You read my mind. I was thinking that. How is that legal for them to be doing it unless they're licensed?
I mean, if Bill Montgomery wanted to arrest all of my friends that were, like he did back in the day for making and possessing wax, why are these deputies allowed to? It's not necessary science. Trust me. The information's out there. They don't need to be doing that. They're using all the stuff they stole from their raids and so forth, which also might not be safe. I would think they're putting their lives at risk, to tell you the truth, a little bit, using stuff that they've confiscated. At least our stuff is inspected, and when you're usually buying it new from the manufacturers.
But it's just nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
That's the best way to put it. Mm-hmm. It is just nuts. Every day's a little different.
There are so many absurdities going on right now. I feel like we're living in the Twilight Zone, and I said to my better half yesterday, I feel like I've been walking around in kind of a nightmare, and I'm going to wake up and it's going to be 2016 and the elections tomorrow, but I digress.
The only thing that's good about it is I keep telling myself it's all happening for a reason. It's going to be a lot better. So hopefully it does get better. It is a little bit crazy. Every day is a little different here. Some days you never know what you're going to find. Though we've had a lot of different experiences. We had some great patients. Let me say that. Their hearts are so big, some of them. My wife broke her toe, and one of them happened to hear that out in the store. They brought her in a brand new pair of shoes they thought would help her with the broken toe.
That's a random act of kindness. I love that.
Another one brings in donuts on the weekend. I was telling you better let me know when you're coming so I can, I'll play you or something. But no, we've got some great patients. We do get about 5% that still drive about an hour down from our old shop. It's a lot of fun. It's really a neat experience. I had another owner once tell me, "You're not in this business till patients cried on his shoulder and thanked you for making their life better." And it's kind of true, but it usually only takes about a week or two for a bud tender to get that experience and get that thank you. You change people's lives when you take the pills out of their lives.
That just gave me goosebumps when you said that.
And when you help them sleep. There was another point that we were talking about earlier. One of the things, so I had a couple of epiphanies or realizations. One is I knew we were going to take pills out of the patient's hands. I knew that we were going to reduce their usage. I mean, completely honest, I thought it was maybe one or probably 2 pills a day on average was my guess. I will tell you that just after probably 2 years up in the small town up in Superior, I'll tell you I think that the average was about 10 pills a day. Now, if you do 10 pills a day, and they're on average, that's the average patient. So some are taking 20 or more, and I'll tell you, we have a lot of those people, and it's shocking, scary. It's almost maddening when someone comes in and tells you they're taking like 20, 25 pills a day. Like, what do you eat? What's your stomach going to look like?
Oh, and your liver. Imagine, because a lot of those synthetic drugs, your body is just not equipped to process. What I found with my father when he was ill was that all of these pills that he was taking, I'd say at least half of them were to deal with the side effects of the other half of the drugs that he was taking. And his liver couldn't handle it. Yeah, and he was never in favor of cannabis, and it wasn't until he got sick and was sort of unaware of his surroundings he went into a coma. But he started coming out of it, and he was doing really well. He was, getting his speech back, and he was, coherent and cognizant of everything around him. But he was irritated by a feeding tube and kept trying to pull it out. And without our knowledge, they put him on a cocktail of Haldol and Ativan. And he went right back into the coma. It was like they flipped the switch, and he never fully recovered after that. And again, he was recovering, and I was sneaking in CBD and THCA because he had this uncontrollable infection, and then CBD with a little bit of THC for nighttime. And he started doing really well again until they started trying to control him. He tried to get up on his own, and, you have 6 nurses holding you down by the shoulders and the knees and not letting you get out of your chair. What are you going to do? You're going to swing, right? He weighed 150 pounds at that point, 6'2", 150 pounds. That's very thin, very frail. But they said he's a danger to our staff. And so the doctors put him back on Ativan. And again, he went right back into a coma. So it was like, clearly this drug is toxic to him. And, finally I just pulled him out of there, and I found a place, luckily, that will allow me to bring cannabis. And I had a concierge doctor come, and we got his license, and he was on cannabis, and he lived out the remaining year and a half of his life, not as coherent as he was the first time he came out of the coma. But cannabis improved his quality of life so much that at least he was not suffering. And when he died, it was just his time.
Part of my argument in all that you just told me, too, is you mentioned your dad was 150 pounds. And I guarantee you they did not adjust any of his dosages when he went from 200 to 150. And the same guy in the facility weighing 200 or 100 was getting the same medication. And that's just malpractice, in my opinion. But, I weigh 200 pounds. My mom weighs 120, let's say. So you give her the same pill as you give me. Again, it's malpractice. Our weights are different. They should be prescribing based on that as well. You know what I mean? As well as metabolisms.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're on the same page. The story you said about the feeding tube actually reminded me of one of my good friends, one of my motivations. I mentioned the store looks like a jewelry store. It's a little bit of a tribute to my friend Alan Miller passed away at 42. He died cancer-free. They killed him looking for more cancer. He beat 2 tumors, Hodgkin's lymphomas, one next to his vocal cord and one next to his esophagus. And it was the one on the esophagus. They decided they wanted to look and see if there was more cancer before they went after, gave him chemo or radiation for that one. He had already beaten the one on his vocal cord and was deemed cancer-free for a few months. But the second one popped up, and the doctors, they do a scope. Unfortunately, my friend had been through the chemo and radiation on his vocal cord, so his body was a little worn. So when they went looking in the esophagus, with this camera lens scope. They poked a hole